So FromSoftware has reportedly another unannounced game that, quote, could release next year. This is allegedly alongside Duskbloods. And just to be clear, in case somehow you've forgotten, Duskbloods is the game that is going to be exclusive to the Switch 2. It is also an online PvP game, which is wild to see them come off of like Elden Ring and do Night Rain and then this right after each other. But, you know, I don't think it's a bad idea. So to set this story up before we look at the details of this alleged separate game, I think that this makes sense just on a broad sort of business scale, because I do think while there's going to be FromSoft fans that are into Duskbloods, the important piece of context to remember is just that this is exclusive to a $500 console, and a lot of people who buy it are going to need to buy a Pro controller. Because it's an online PvP game, you're going to need the Nintendo Online membership, so you're going to need to pay for that. Like, this game is probably going to be $80, so you're going to need to buy it as well. You're probably in for $700 when all is said and done, maybe more depending on where you live, if you want this game, because a lot of FromSoft fans probably don't have a Switch to begin with. They probably are playing, FromSoft games on either PlayStation 5 or Xbox or PC, so they're going to be buying a separate console just for this game, and I think that's going to potentially turn off some people, or at least it's going to be frustrating, for a lot. Because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of freaking money for an exclusive game. And I mean, that's why it's so crazy that it's exclusive. But I think if they have a separate game on the side that they also can offer up to people, it's not a bad idea. You remember back in the day, Ubisoft, when they released AC Unity as a next-gen exclusive in 2014, it was kind of seen as a bold move because they're like, there's not that many PS4s that have been sold. So doing an exclusive massive game like this seems like a risk. So you know what they did? They released AC Rogue at the same time on last gen consoles, on the 360 and PS3, so that they could double dip into both of it. And I'm not saying that they're going to do like a cross-generational thing here, but I think they might do a game that's cross-platform, or at least, multi-platform, that maybe even a single player, while also releasing this, multiplayer exclusive Switch 2 game. But let's see what they say specifically. As according to Multiplayer First, which claims the Japanese developer has a game codenamed FMC at, quote, advanced stages of production, end quote, alongside upcoming Switch 2 title The Duskbloods and Elden Ring Night Rain's post-launch support. According to the publication, the unannounced game is likely to release, quote, no later than next year. I mean, and again, just to remind you, next year, 2026, they plan to still be supporting Night Rain, and they're also putting out this Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive game. So it would be crazy if they could put out another big game as well. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about details of this as I choke on my own throat. Because one of the things that's important to remember with this whole thing is that Hidetaka Miyazaki, historically, the games that he works on review very, very well. And the projects that he doesn't work on, that like one of his producers works on, might still do like 80 out of 100, 85 out of 100. Like, they're still well received, but it's not like, the 10 out of 10 masterpieces that Miyazaki just consistently drops like it's nothing. So it's not clear if this other project would also be run by him. It's kind of confusing, but we'll get into it. It's also conducted analysis into the unannounced title's codename, which it says is likely an abbreviation. It also notes that previously codenames started with the letter F have been related to Dark Souls or Armored Core games. This leads it to speculate that the unannounced title could be a Fires of Rubicon expansion or the long-awaited Dark Souls 3 remaster. Hidetaka Miyazaki, whoops, I pressed the name and it took me to a page. Hidetaka Miyazaki has claimed that the recently announced Switch 2 exclusive The Duskbloods, quote, doesn't mean that FromSoftware is moving away from traditional single-player games. What he said was, quote, I've always found the PvPvE structure very interesting. It allows for a broad range of game design ideas while also letting us leverage our experience of designing challenging enemy encounters. As a side note, please allow me to address one thing. As previously mentioned, this is an online multiplayer title at its core, but this doesn't mean that we as a company have decided to shift to a more multiplayer focused direction with titles going forward. At the very least, heavily suggesting that there's single player stuff coming. The Nintendo Switch 2 version of Elden Ring was also announced, and we still intend to actively develop single player focused games such as this that embrace our traditional style. So he's trying to say, we're not just doing multiplayer stuff moving forward. Yes, we're doing 2 games back to back that are multiplayer focused, but it's not our full focus perpetually moving forward. I think that the safest way for them to handle this would just be to release like something that's more traditional FromSoft, that's more fan servicey. It could be the Dark Souls 3 remake, remaster, whatever that is, because I think a lot of traditional Soulsborne fans will be really happy to see that. Fires of Rubicon expansion. I mean, I'd be a little surprised if that's what they're doing. Not that, you know, Armored Core 6 was bad or anything. It was very good, but I'd just be surprised if they would be doing that after the amount of time that's passed. Because I think, you know, a Dark Souls remaster or something just makes sense. Because here's the thing. No matter how good Duskbloods is, okay? No matter how good this is, let's say it is like a 97 out of 100. It breaks records for the Metacritic score. There's going to be a lot of people out there who just frankly can't afford to buy a console for one game. Like, it's a lot of money. When you talk about a $500 console, especially if you're in other parts of the world, it can be even more. God forbid you live in Australia or Brazil. And then you have to buy a very expensive copy of the game, and you're probably playing a game like this, ideally with like a Pro controller instead of the little Joy-Cons. So you're going to need to get that. Like, you're in for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And there's going to be a lot of people who just frankly can't afford it. So if you can give them something to be able to enjoy because they're still fans of yours, I think that's awesome. And I think that would be very, very good if they can do that. So people at least have something to sink their teeth into, even if they can't afford to jump into this. I mean, I'm sure something like this project wouldn't historically have happened from FromSoftware. I'm sure the Nintendo exclusivity deal that just brought them tens upon tens upon tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to produce it. I'm sure that helped grease the wheels a good amount to allow it to happen. But it's still just exclusive content like this just is always kind of a bummer, because it means that a lot of people are not going to get to experience what is otherwise probably going to be a really cool game. I understand why it happens in the context of the industry. I understand Nintendo loves it because they're going to get to sell a lot of extra consoles this way and get a lot of Nintendo Online memberships because of it. But still, at the end of the day, I just am frustrated by it because there's a lot of people who just frankly won't be able to afford the hundreds upon hundreds of dollars you'll need to spend to get into this, which is just, it's too bad. It's too bad, especially if you already spent $500 on a current gen console like a PS5 or something, and then you're not going to be able to get this because it's only on the Switch 2. It's too bad. But we'll see. Next year we're going to see the game, and you know, we'll see what this other project is. I would just hazard people against assuming this is going to be like Dark Souls 4 or Elden Ring 2. I don't think that's what's happening, because again, my understanding is that Hidetaka Miyazaki is working on Duskbloods. He's not working on this separate project. And so I would hope that the separate projects may be a little tighter in scope so that when he jumps on to the next big thing, it can be given all the resources that it needs. But yeah, it's very interesting. And if this ends up being true, it would be absolutely crazy that they've managed to juggle all of these projects at the same time, but good on them. So we'll see. But as we learned earlier this year, never underestimate FromSoftware. Never underestimate FromSoftware. I mean, I've told you guys, I'll tell you when I'm wrong. I was very wrong about Night Rain. I did not think that would blow up anywhere near as much as it did, but it exploded. It did very, very well. It's still doing really well. And this, I'm sure, is going to do really well as well. I just genuinely don't know how many people out there that are big FromSoft fans will get over that hurdle of spending hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for a new console just to play this game. Yeah, they'll have Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Bonanza and stuff, but I think if you're big into like Soulsborne games, you're probably not playing a lot of Mario Kart, you know? Like, you're probably not. Like, if you were, you'd already have it. So I just... It's going to be so interesting. It's going to be so interesting. Again, never underestimate FromSoft fans to show up and support, but I feel like the difference between supporting a $30, $40 live service game in the form of Night Rain, that's one thing. Having to buy a dedicated console basically just for this game, that's a whole other level. That is, I mean, in a lot of ways, it goes beyond fandom because it's just a matter of finances. And shocker, not a lot of people just have $500, $600, $700 laying around to just throw at something. Like that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's rent money, you know, depending on where you live. I mean, it could only be half of your rent, to be fair. Like if you lived in Colorado, a third of your rent, but still, Colorado rent is crazy. Living here is stupid expensive. Just saying. Anyway, that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue for another segment. Luke complaining about rent prices in Colorado. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. But how crazy would it be if they actually did that? That would be wild. Absolutely wild.